In the first video, we talked about how to start a project and import objects into the project to size, rotate, and scale them appropriately, place them around on your image however you want, and actually we shadowed them and turned them into a cluster. In this video, what I'd like to do is show you how you make the backgrounds that hold these things, whether they be clusters or whether they be text elements or whether they be just design elements or your photographs. There are several ways in ScrapPage to form a background. Simplest way, of course, is just to make a color background. So if we start off with a square background and we pick a color, you can pick any color you want. There's millions of them to choose from in Photoshop or in Windows or on the Macintosh. You just slide the slider up and down and choose in here whatever hue you would like of that particular shade. So you can pick, and this bar up here shows you the color you have selected. These over here are some presets. You can always preset your color. For instance, let's just say you had a penchant for that color of green, and you said, I think I'm going to use that green a lot. If you select one of these boxes over here and right click on it, you just save that as a preset. So you could recall that particular color anytime you wanted. The two white and a black up here, those are preset by me, and they're not changeable. That always gives you the option to get them pure white or pure black whenever you would want it. So for sake of argument, let's just say we wanted to start something out and we wanted it to be a purple hue. If you do that, you get a nice square rectangle full of purple. On the other hand, if you wanted to change it to something, and you can change the background in ScrapPage anytime, so long as you still have the project open. Let's just say, and for argumentative purposes, that you were more of a person that was interested in, say, this tan color, and you wanted to texture it. ScrapPage comes with a number of built-in textures, and one of them, for instance, like this Floret Grunge here, if we open that along with that beige texture we had there. So you now have this background, and on this you could lay all of your design elements and any other thing you wanted to build your page. Another way, and it's more versatile, is if we just start with another square here. I'll just start a new project that's white, and this more versatile way, I'm going to bring in a picture. And the picture I'm going to bring in is right here. It's just some swabs of color that I put together in Photoshop in 10 seconds. I just grabbed a few brushes and smeared them around on the page. I find that you don't want the colors to be too brilliant for this to turn into nice backgrounds, because usually you want the background to be kind of the host of everything else, not the main show. So I find that if these things tend to be lighter and more drab, that tends to work better. For instance, if we have this selected, what I might do here is go into the image adjust. There are some certain features in ScrapPage that allow you to do some image adjustments. Not nearly as robust as Photoshop, of course, but it lets you do some of the basics. So if we lighten that up a good bit and then really take down its contrast to where it looks sort of muddy almost, it's kind of very drab now. This works out pretty well for using it for texturizing. Now the way you texturize is if you choose the element that you're going to do texturizing and you go down here to Artistic. Under Artistic there is something here called Texturize Image. Now again, the basic images of ScrapPage come up and allow you to select what you want. Let's just say this time we're going to pick this Grunge 6. So there, now that just texturized it with that particular grunge. But one of the cool things you can do is you can layer the textures. That means I can now texturize this textured image. Now it's not going to replace the texture that I already did. It's going to be an overlay. It's going to be a double texture. So if I go down here and I pick, say, Patches 3, this is going to give it sort of a denim look, kind of almost a tie-dye denim look, okay, something like this. Now that would be very nice for a background. You might even want to tone it down a little bit. If you want to say, okay, it's still a little too bright for my taste, you can lower its opacity, keeping in mind that there's a white background below it. So that's the effect you get. Now you could change the background, by the way. If you wanted to get a different effect, you could go down here and make the background black. And if you compute that, now you see that this thing looks a little darker than it did before. It really doesn't matter, because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to now fulfill the background. And that is, I'm going to take this object, which is an image, and I'm going to fill it completely to the background. So there, now it fully fills the background. Now, if you're very happy with this, by the way, it locks it when you fulfill the background, so you can't really select it right now unless you unlock the object. And I talked about unlocking and locking objects in the first video, if you need to review that. Anyway, unless I unlock it, I can't select it. But what I could do is I could flatten it. If I said this is the background I want, I'm very happy with it, I'll just flatten it. It'll tell me that this is not a reversible procedure. Should I go ahead? I'll tell it yes. Okay, so it now will just go ahead and do that. Having done that, I can no longer select this object because there is no object there. There is only a background now. So that's a second way that you can make these things. Now, another way to start a project is to use ScrapPage's texturizing capabilities, but to use other people's textures. Karen has some very interesting textures, as you all know, and I have some of them that she's allowed me to use for these demonstrations, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how you would do that using her textures. First thing, I'll just start another white square background here. These are 12 by 12s, by the way, so they're 3600 by 3600, so it's a 12 by 12 300 dpi. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to add that picture that I used before, but I'm going to do something a little different with it this time. I'm just going to go ahead and color it. And by color it, I just go down here to Artistic, select that, and it says Color Image. I'm going to pick this blue, and I'm going to go over here more into the blue-gray, kind of the dark gun barrel blue, and just go ahead and color it that color. Now, I've got the background, but I have to put a texture on it. So what I'm going to do is I'll go Artistic and Texturize just as before, but rather than choosing one of my standard textures that come built in, I'm going to go up here into the Dropbox into my scrapping class, and under here I have a folder called Snickerdoodle Design Textures. And in there I have a number of Karen's textures, and I think I'll just pick this one just for argumentative purposes. So there, I texturized the background using one of hers. Now, that might be still too bold or too, because keep in mind, the backgrounds, you don't really want the background to be the picture, you want it to be the host for the picture. So anyhow, what I might do with this is I might go ahead and drop it down a little bit, something like this. It sort of depends on what you're going to do with the paper after you get it made, because that's what these really are, they're papers. And now that I've got that, I go ahead and apply that, and then I probably would go and use that to fulfill my background. And having it there, and I say, hey, I'm happy with that, looks good to me, I'm going to go down and flatten it, and that now becomes my background, and then I could lay my design elements on top of that. Okay? Now, the other thing that is possible is to mix this. That is, you can create a background, and you can use it with other backgrounds to make, say, a stack paper. So for instance, if I took this and I said, fine, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go down into some kit design elements that I have. I happen to have some elements from one of Karen's sports packages here. Let's say I pick this paper and I open this paper up now. Okay, so there you go. I'll just bring this out and I'll open it and rotate it around and get it to where I want it. You know, something like, say, like that. You know, that'll look pretty good. Now, because it's a stack paper and you want a little bit of definition, I'm going to go ahead and give it a shadow, and I'm going to give it a fairly strong but not too wide shadow. I want it to actually look like a piece of paper laying on a piece of paper. Okay, so we do that. Now, what's even better is we start from this, and now let's use some of those other elements that we made before. So I'm going to add a picture, but this time I'm going to go down to my documents folder where I put that cluster that we made in the first video. I'll go down here until I can find it. It's under my scrap page files, and there it is. There's the demo cluster. So we'll bring that in, blow it up in size a bit, and set it up here somewhere like this. That might be a little too large. Let's tone it down just a bit and put it somewhere like that. Okay, so now we've got that. We can then go in and add other additional elements. You can add as many of these as you want. If I go back into my scrapping class under my Snickerdoodle Design Kits and go to Sports one more time, let's pick that frame and that frame there. That'll look pretty good. I'll bring these two guys in, move this one, say, over here somewhere, and rotate it around, make it the size that I want it to be, and stick it about here someplace, and move this one and rotate it and put it around in here. I might want these to all be underneath my cluster, so I'll bring the cluster to the front so these things kind of lay underneath. Oop, didn't want to move the paper. Let's put the paper somewhere and lock it. How's that? There we go. How about we lock the paper in place there? Maybe bring the cluster up in size just a little bit so that it does in fact overlay these things. Right? Yeah, say and that's where we got that there. I'm going to lock it in place so I don't inadvertently move it either. Maybe I'll move this up to about here, kind of blow it up a little. Move this here and blow it up a little, something like that. Okay, so now you can see I got my apertures where I'm going to put things. I'm going to put my pictures behind there. So from here, I would probably add other things. I could add some more design elements. We can do that real quick. Let's grab a few other design elements. Maybe we'll get, let's take that guy there, and doesn't matter. Let's pick the this and this. We'll pick the daisy and this rope, and put the rope down here and resize it so that it stays on the page, and maybe send it back behind that when we get ready to do that. Let me rearrange these and I'll do that in a second. Rotate this around, move it down here someplace, and shrink this down a lot and put it down in here, something like that. I might want to bring it to the front so that it's on top of that. I certainly want to move this back because I don't want it laying on top of that denim frame that we're going to use. So I can go into the reorder layer here, and I'm just going to move it back 1, 2, until it eventually falls behind there. Okay, there it is. Now it's behind there. This guy here, I might want to rotate him a little bit more and move him here. Okay, so now we can shadow all of that again if we wanted to, and whatever else. And behind these frames, we could drop our images, and we have a nice layout that we could put some text to describe what this is all about and be finished with it. Okay, now in the next video I'm going to go on to talk about turning this into a quick page, and you'll see what I'm going to do for that. Okay, so until then, this is Dave. Bye-bye.